Hey, we're live. You
Stop
did
that.
it.
We're not. We're no. Here
Yes, we are, Ted. We ignition. We have ignition.
keep talking, Scott. You can bring us in. I'm trying to
DMZ America podcast, mission to the moon and back. I'm not sure why I'm talking like an old-timey announcer now, but anyway, hey everyone, I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis. This is the DMZ America podcast live. You can watch us, live as you're doing right now, or you can catch the video later. As my co-host says, he's pursed-lipped and frustrated.
Oh, you know what? I mean, you know what? It's the Rumble feed. The Rumble feed is down. I don't know why, but anyway, hello YouTube world. I'm Ted Rall, political cartoonist, coming to you from the left.
Okay, there you have it. So we're going to keep this one short and sweet. There was a gun crime committed in downtown New York City this past couple of days. It has gotten
Midtown, to be accurate, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, it's like
there's a difference. It's a big
it's
city.
like we're married.
It's not
man.
Birmingham.
There's downtown Birmingham. There's outskirts of Birmingham. There's east and west sides of Birmingham. I mean,
probably no Midtown though.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's pretty much. There what? Well, it was. How's that? Does that sound weird? Because it used to be the center of like the banking community. It was the heaviest corner in the world. Have you ever heard of this?
Wait, the what?
The heaviest corner in the world, and they had 4 skyscrapers. This is back in the 1920s, and it was the first city to have 4 skyscrapers on the same intersection, and it was the heaviest corner in the world, and the skyscrapers are still there, just not the enthusiasm.
Okay then.
Anyway, okay, so well, you can tee it up, Ted. I mean, this is your neck of the woods.
Yeah, more my neck of the woods than you might think. So Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, with the biggest health insurance company in the United States, was at a company gathering in Midtown Manhattan. He was walking down West 54th Street between 6th and 7th Avenue, right in front of the Hilton. That's not where the event was. He just happened to be there. When an assailant approached just about a quarter before 7 o'clock, it's still a little bit dark, pulled out what appears to be a .32 caliber revolver equipped with a silencer.
A silencer the size of his arm, by the way. This thing is huge.
Shot him once, Mr. Thompson once in the leg. Mr. Thompson goes down. Then the gun jams, and the shooter takes the time to clear the chamber, and then fires off 2 more rounds into his. Obviously, he was dead immediately at the scene. He was declared dead later at the hospital, but paramedics said that he was gone, so he bled out pretty quickly. I'm not sure how long it took before what happened drew any attention of passersby or anyone else or the police. But immediately, what's really notable about this? I mean, look, this would be a notable event no matter what. The assassination of a major corporate CEO, and we're talking about, by some measures, the 3rd or 4th largest company in the United States. It would be extremely notable. Under any circumstance. But then, of course, obviously people start asking, what could the motive have been? And it was kind of assumed, obviously people are open-minded and they know it could be personal. It could be something, related to a business rivalry. Who knows? Mafia, mistaken identity, any number of possibilities. But it was kind of immediately assumed, well, you're the CEO of an extremely unpopular company with the highest rate of rejections of claims in network of any other company in a healthcare company in America. 32% of in-network claims are rejected by United Healthcare.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
In network, right? So I would think that they'd be rejecting, 0% of in-network claims. And then the company itself that also has a lot of internal strife and drama. They've been giving themselves giant CEO raises for a while, and at the same time, they've been laying off thousands of workers who actually do the work. So, it could have been a disgruntled former employee, for example. And basically now a really tantalizing clue has emerged in engraving found on 3 of the shell casings recovered at the scene by the NYPD, which seem to reflect the title of a book which is about the healthcare industry and how they don't pay out on claims. The manhunt is upon us. It's now been a day and a half since this event, and he still hasn't been located. The NYPD, they're certainly the detectives have material to work with. He he went to Starbucks before the shooting, purchased water and coffee, and then cameras caught him throwing away his empty vessels into a trash can. The detectives dug them out, and so they have those. So presumably they have his DNA. Seems like a
hey Ted, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're pixelated and frozen. So speaking of garbage, this image looks pretty bad.
I can fix it.
Can you really?
I think so.
Let's see you do it. I dare you. I double dog dare you, man. Come on, bring it. Let's see your mad internet skills at play here. You there, Ted? Well, we may have lost Ted altogether.
How's that? That seems better. No.
Well, you're moving at least. You're not crystal clear. That's weird. You're pretty pixelated, but go on. I apologize. So they found the Starbucks cup and also his water bottle. Weirdly,
and a cell phone. Not a small thing. So here's the thing, Scott. So if you're the cops, you currently have DNA that can be. I know that's a time-consuming matter. If you're not in like 23andMe or some other database. To use, DNA technology to like find relatives and all that, that's a painstaking process that could take time. But they now have what they claim to be an unmasked photo from a youth hostel where he was allegedly staying at on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And they have, and what else do they have? Oh, and they have the cell phone. They went to court to get a warrant to open the cell phone. Assuming that works and assuming it's his phone, game over, right? I mean, one would think. I mean, and if that's really his picture, that's really his face, game over, right?
Well, game over for him. I mean, sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Here's the thing. I mean, we're going to play Junior G-Man for just a minute. We're going to allow ourselves that a little bit, but mostly we want to talk about an issue that Ted and I talk about a great deal, and that's the soul of America and the response to this so far and what the response to it going forward will most likely be. A lot of this stuff doesn't hang together too much until you start like really pulling back. The New York Times has a map of the area of the Hilton Midtown, where this happened. So I'm specific and I'm right, according to my co-host.
Yes.
Midtown. So they showed where it happened, how it happened, the timeline as they know it, the current timeline. And it all looks like a guy who looks like he thought he'd be caught or maybe even shot. He's just sort of meandering away. I think he's walking around and thinking, my God, I'm going to get when are they going to show up? When are the sirens coming? When are the,
Well, little did he know that for the last 4 years since the pandemic, there haven't been any cops.
No, and I can tell you, I mean, I visited Ted recently in his palatial New York apartment and walking around the city, shocking. I mean, this was shocking when you and I took the subway and there were no cops there. I mean, none, anywhere.
Oh, and by the way, this guy, there's also surveillance footage of this guy taking the subway. He made a lot of mistakes that I wouldn't have made. I mean, it's weird. There's things that it's like we could go through it, right? Like he took the subway there. He arrived at the closest nearby subway station. Seems like a rookie error. Seems smarter to, go a few stops away, walk, take a meandering path to get there, it would have thrown off the detectives more. He's well disguised. His escape was excellent. He got away by bicycle. The cops
but Ted, it wasn't excellent. He kind of walked. If you look at the map, you look at how he went. It was sort of like it looks very similar to me to be very amateur hour. It was about 2 or 3 blocks away from where the incident happened. And when he gets on the bicycle, when he hops on the bike, and it's just
I don't understand the bike. The bike is not a city bike, rideshare bike, although that's what the initial report said, which would have been really boneheaded because those have GPS tracking. I use them all the time, and they show on your phone like exactly.
That's just to get it off the rack. Don't you need to use your credit card?
Yeah, you do. Okay. So it's not like any derp can get one. And then the other thing is, so he has a bike. Okay, so he's an unaccompanied, unlocked bike in Manhattan. I mean, that's most things have to be nailed down to not get stolen within seconds here. So it's like no homeless person just decided to abscond with it. And it was still there when he went back to get it. I mean, because he had to loiter. He loitered for quite some time waiting for his victim, for his quarry, right? And then, so the bike was probably alone for at least 20 minutes, maybe longer. That seems like a long time to leave a bike unattended, even in the early morning hours in New York. I don't know. That's weird. Then he hightails it into Central Park. That's smart. Not many cameras in Central Park. A lot of wooded areas. You can go in, ditch your bike, change clothes. Backpack, I have to assume, had a change of clothes in it. Have to. What else? Why else do you have the backpack? And then he disappears into thin air. I mean, if that's really his face, I mean, they're going to nail him.
Yeah, well, I think it's almost impossible in this surveillance-heavy country to get away with anything remotely like this. I think he's stunned that he's still out. I have to believe this. I'm looking at other assassination attempts, like the goofy guy who did actually tag President Trump. The Yahoos blew him away, and they shouldn't have. They should have kept him alive to ask what the hell this was, how he did it and who he did it. But the second attempt a few weeks following that on this guy, it's amateur hour. We have this idea that somehow Day of the Jackal, right? These guys are they've plotted it out. They look at the maps. They see the algorithm. They know the sewer lines underneath the city for escape where they can go. And, no, these guys, no, and I don't know what this was. I mean, no one does at this stage. My suspicion is that it's going to be similar to Assassins. And you and I, being history buffs, Ted, know that assassins aren't the smartest guys in the world. They haven't thought it through. They shoot, they do it. They have some idea in their head that they're causing revolution or they're changing the world. My suspicion is going to be that's what this guy's beef was, because initially when I heard it, Ted, I thought it was a hit. It sounded like it was. Mm-hmm. You're frozen again, but I can hear you.
Okay, that's weird. I'll see if I can fix it. Keep talking.
Yes. And so my initial response was, okay, this is a hit. Was this guy under investigation? Now it turns out that Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, is indeed under investigation. I believe it's for insider trading. Would someone shoot someone who, if he was going to cop a plea or something, and he had friends in New York, building community, you may be shocked to learn that there may be organized crime still in New York City. I could be wrong. It could be that again, could just be another movie cliche.
Well, he was under investigation by the Justice Department for insider trading on at least one occasion. We're not talking small potatoes. $15.1 million in one transaction alone 2 weeks ago. So that could point to the organized crime or other.
Well, you said was under investigation, or obviously not.
Well, I think the investigation has come to a close.
Yes, they've closed the books on it, have they?
Yes.
So that was my initial response was this a hit? It just seemed awfully clean and awfully professional. But now I'm looking at this guy again, what the New York Times is reporting currently, what his departure from the crime scene seems really, really amateur hour. So did he bring a change of clothes? That just seems like maybe that's that may be giving him too much foresight as well. So that's where things stand as of right now. My guess is he's some guy who listened to an awful lot of lefty speaking points, if I had to guess, and he did this to start the revolution, as so many of people like that think they're going to do. And in point of fact, all he did was kill another human being. Let's skip to the soul of America here, Ted, and see, because the response has been really interesting, including my own. Fair notice.
Okay,
I mean,
let's hear it.
Which is like on the my first reaction above all others was, okay, who was this guy who was shot? Oh, he's the CEO of United Healthcare. Oh, I had United Healthcare before I went on Medicare, and they catch this guy, assuming they do. They crack NYPD, New York's finest, actually catch this guy. Will they ever find a jury to convict this guy? And my thought is absolutely not.
Nope.
This is of the douchebag broverse that runs this country. He's the most it looks to be perhaps the most douchebaggy and broish of them all. Ted and I were looking at the handout photo he has for United Healthcare, and it's clearly photoshopped because he's clearly a chubby dude. Yeah. But his top half, he's got his arms folded. He's kind of going like this. He's got this 3 days of growth on his face. And then you look down and his waist tapers down to 26 inches. It's just like, okay, so.
He's like He-Man from Masters of the Universe.
Or he wears a corset from 1888.
Always possible.
Always possible. We're not going to discard anything. But so I have to admit, my first reaction was everybody's in this country's reaction, Ted, which was, okay, I'm probably not going to mourn this guy's passing, because the decisions he makes, given that he is paid literally, what's his base salary? Do you have that in front of you? Someplace in the neighborhood of like crazy, like tens of millions, if not 100 million.
Well, he made $10 million last year. I think
all.
I think the vast majority of it was bonuses. I think the base pay is like low, like 200,000 or 300,000.
You're kidding. Okay, so he makes a great deal of money, and his decisions, unlike that of, say, Starkist or Mars Candy or something, his decisions, with the possible exception of laying people off, but his decisions literally kill people. His decisions literally, are life and death, and he doesn't give a shit. And in fact, the more decisions he makes that kills more people makes him more money. That is a bad dude. Okay?
True.
Gonna say that. All of that being said, killing another human being, I will never, ever, ever, never, ever defend it unless it's baby Hitler and someone does time travel. Maybe. But in this instance, I still feel like this is, it's a crime. Ultimately, it's just a dirty street crime. Some, slimy person whose sense of another human being's worth is so significantly diminished that he felt entitled to take that person's life. Mm-hmm. I cannot countenance that. And you have a slightly different opinion.
Well, look, purely, subjectively, objectively, you're right, Scott. Murder is wrong. If this person is every bit as douchey and evil and at the head of an evil apparatus as you and I and apparently millions of other Americans seem to believe, then there should be some kind of other way to go about this. And, it's not right. And he's the father and a husband and blah, blah, blah. And, he was just doing his job and he was just following orders. Now, that all said, so here's the thing. If I'm on that jury, do I nullify it? And the answer is probably yeah. I'd have to hear more about the circumstances, but here's why. Let's just say that you're the victim of someone like that. By the way, I think if you've ever been a customer of a major insurance company, you've been a victim of health insurance. Nobody has, I doubt that you could possibly have health insurance for, say, 5 years and not have a completely legitimate test or procedure disapproved illegitimately by a healthcare company, right? I mean, by a health insurance company. They just do. It's like, it's normal. Basically, it's a game. Like, you have to get a pre-approval code, and then which could be revoked at any time. And then, when they'll come up with some excuse after the fact to only pay, none or only part of what you're entitled to. I mean, basically the profit model for these companies is, they just deny claims routinely. United Healthcare actually is currently being sued by the estates of 2 elderly people who died because they denied, an AI bot refused coverage. They didn't even have a human being who, you would like there to be a human being who had laid eyes upon you before they decided that you didn't need a procedure. But they don't even have a human being who did not lay eyes on you, or a dog or a hamster or any animal to deal with it. They had like an AI bot just say, nope, 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 nope. So that's their model. Their model is you collect tons of money, and then you don't pay out on claims. I mean, when I used to work in investment banking, I had access to all the bank accounts in the bank. And I remember that, like, the one thing that really struck me was that most companies and most quote unquote wealthy individuals don't really have money. What they have is credit. They have access to money, but they don't have money. Someone like Donald Trump didn't for many years have money. It's like insurance companies were the opposite. They were our insurance company customers were so awash in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that they had them sitting in non-interest bearing accounts. It was like they came in too fast, because the whole thing is they collect the premiums, but they don't pay, right? So, and in the case of, like, say, a house insurance company that, hilariously tells you that, the flood's not covered, for your house from the hurricane because you didn't have flood insurance. You should have gotten wind insurance, but you did have wind insurance. Oh, well, we would have covered the flood, or whatever it is that they do. Yeah. That sucks. But when you're talking about healthcare, it's literally a matter of quality of life or maybe death. So, so it's really a pisser. And, we could sit there and tell horror stories all day long. Here, I'll tell you one. As you know, Scott, I fell and broke my wrist a week and a half ago. So I go to urgent care. Urgent care says, being that it's on a Sunday, that's out of pocket. And they're like, okay, well, you got to go to, you got to go to the bone doctor and, the real dude. And so we checked your insurance. This guy is in network. So, print it out. Here you go. Wonderful job. I go there. Oh, no, we're not in network. And so anyone who knows about these lists of, like, all the doctors who are supposedly in network, they're years out of date. You could be, our colleague, the cartoonist Andy Singer, posted about this on Facebook, on my Facebook page yesterday. He said he had just spent 2.5 hours that morning dealing with United Healthcare, and he had called doctor after doctor after doctor after doctor in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area to, all of whom were supposedly members of United Healthcare, none of whom actually were. This is all part of their deflect, deny approach, right? So the point is, we hate them. They're evil. These companies and their top executives who make the decisions at these companies are absolute scoundrels, and they're the scum of the earth. And they should be sent to a re-education camp if we had a proper socialist solution to this problem. Alas, we do not. So, so that's the thing. So this is a very long-winded way, Scott, of asking. There's no remedy within the system. Within the legal system, there is no remedy. You can't sue them successfully. You can't write to your congressman or your senator and get them pissed because they're owned by these healthcare companies. You can't write angry, strongly worded letters to these companies and have them give a shit. There's literally absolutely nothing you can do to get them to do the right thing. That is a fact. I mean, the system is baked in. There's no indication whatsoever that Congress ever plans to address these issues, to issue basic regulations like, hey, if a doctor issues a script, your insurance company has to carry it. If an insurance company says that a doctor is in network, they have to pay for that doctor no matter what, to encourage them to keep their list up to date.
Right.
These are common sense solutions. None of them will ever be enacted in the current system.
Oh, I don't know.
Democrats and Republicans are the same. They don't give a shit about the American people. They care about their corporate sponsors, and these are big corporate sponsors. So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to answer your question.
I haven't gotten to the question. Given the fact that you can't affect change any other way, how is it really different to walk up to an asshole like that on 54th Street and whack him? How is that different from my grandfather during World War II in France? Bicycling past a couple of SS officers enjoying a latte and rolling a hand grenade under their table one morning. What's the difference?
Well, I think there are instruments in place. You mentioned them to change this. Now, change comes slowly. Change comes hard, and especially if you're fighting against an ensconced power like the health insurance companies. Look what they did to Obamacare. I mean, during the negotiations, they brought in, I thought rightfully, frankly, at the time, I still think so, to bring in the health insurance companies to be part of the conversation, but they were allowed to take over. And I suspect those companies threatened the politicians, saying, listen, we literally have tens of thousands of people working for us. Gee, it'd be a real shame if those jobs went away. I'm thinking too, what's the difference? The difference is they're not an occupying force. There are conceivably institutions and ways to approach these issues if you get serious. I mean, what's that?
They are an occupying force. They're occupying our public space. They're occupying our health. I mean, literally, I think I would rather be occupied by a foreign power that's pushing me around when I go out in the street. I mean, it's like, at least when I get sick, the occupying power isn't saying like, no, Ted, we decide what drugs you get. I mean, even stupid little shit. Like, for example, I've had the situation where I had like a wart on my hand, and they're like, yeah, we don't cover that. So you're supposed to just live with a wart on your hand. Yeah, you're supposed to just live with it. It's like, because we just don't want to pay for it. It's like,
believe me when I tell you, I'm not defending the system. The system is clearly broken, but there are remain.
What's seriously, besides killing the CEO, what can you do?
I think you can elect officials who are like-minded officials who agree with that position. I mean, no, I'm saying.
We tried that with Bernie Sanders, but that wasn't allowed.
You tried it. Just because you tried it once doesn't mean you're going to succeed. My God, what are you, a Gen Xer? Oh wait.
We tried it twice, to be honest, but
you've got to keep knocking on this door.
Look, I mean, honestly, we've had this struggle now going, as you know. The struggle to try to get socialized medicine goes back to at least 1948 and Harry Truman. And there's been, just year after year after year, no success at all. I mean, it's impossible. I would say it's impossible under the American capitalist system. So short of a revolution, which, by the way, also entails the violent overthrow of the elites, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it within the system and the system of laws as they currently are constructed? I say you can't. And here's the other question: should you have to? I mean, when there are people every single day, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of Americans, thousands really, who are literally dying because a health insurance company, and bear in mind, we're not talking about people who are uninsured. We're talking about people who are insured, that, either their employer or they are paying to get a service that they don't get, which is health insurance, right? And so they're literally dying because of cancer or any other number of illnesses or diseases, where they're being told, and because they can't get the care that they need because their health insurance company won't approve it. I mean, So literally, these companies are some of the biggest mass murderers in the history of the world. And so, I mean, studies have shown that at least 70,000 people a year die due to health insurance companies. I mean, in the United States alone, I'm sure those numbers are low. I mean, if you're killing 70,000 people a year, 70,000 Americans a year, the words "fuck you" come to mind, right?
They do. They absolutely do. And you ask, should you have to go to bat and fight these battles? Well, clearly you do. Because
and you're sick and you can't.
Not just the one-on-one battles, but the battles of ensconced power in this country. And that's where we're coming back to the soul of America. Should you have to fight this fight? One would think not.
What if you can't? I mean, I was just thinking about this
as an individual, no individual is going to win this. No individual is going to win this battle. It has to be a collective idea, collective ideal that the American people go to the polls on. And we still haven't been sold on it. And it's bizarre.
So let me ask you about that, because in preparation for this show, I looked up, what's the approval rating of healthcare, the health insurance company.
Oh God.
And it's a little bit, I mean, you would think it would be like basically the same as herpes, but no, actually, depending on who you ask, roughly 40 to 50% of Americans say that they're okay with their employer provided healthcare. So, I mean, how do you square the fact that there hasn't been political pressure on either the Democrats or the Republicans to change this state of affairs, and yet the reaction to this guy Brian Thompson's death has been 99% glee, jokes, rage, and just wallowing in Schadenfreude. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, people are really pissed, but then who are these other people who are okay? And you know what I mean? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I question the ones who are okay. I question that number is that high, because Albert Algoric will say that, I mean, when I first started in the newspaper business and was a staff cartoonist, the insurance was phenomenal. I mean, it really was exactly what you would have expected. Oh my God, I have a growth on my throat. Let's go to the doctor. The doctor says, oh my God, you have a growth on your throat. I will send you to the growth on throat specialist. And you go, and the whole time during that process, you may or may not have had to shell out the copay, which more often than not was like $5. That got worse and worse. And as the greed of these guys got worse and worse, the insurance got worse and worse. And that's where we are today. I mean, can you ratchet it back? Every time a company tries to offer like golden health insurance, that company goes out of business. I'm saying like, a .com, one of the .com bubble companies. These guys have been allowed to get away with it. And I really believe, side issue, if they do catch this guy, and I suspect they will. I mean, this is a manhunt. This is a nationwide manhunt. I'm not sure if you remember this video. There's a guy, he's a criminal. He's being taken through the airport. He's being taken to prison. He's been convicted of raping and killing this girl. There's a guy in the payphones. And for those kids out there who don't know what I'm talking about, it's a bank of phones that you put coins in to operate. He's sitting there, and all of a sudden the guy on the phone turns around, looks at the guy, puts the phone down, pulls out a gun, and blows the guy's brains out. Not one jury in America, because it turned out that was his daughter. Not one jury in America, in the world, I would suspect, would convict. If this guy goes before a jury, Ted, given the reaction of you and me, a running dog, capitalist pig on this side, and a screaming banshee, batshit crazy commie on the other, and we kind of agree that this guy may have had it coming.
If anybody ever had it coming, he did.
This goes to a jury. I mean, does any jury convict? I mean, seriously.
No. I think it's going to be hard. Yeah.
It'd be impossible. It would be impossible because, I mean, let's face it, you and I go in front of the judge and they're being questioned by the attorneys. Do you think he deserved to die? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, if anybody did.
It comes back to my thought, and I know Ted agrees with that, is that the idea that what this guy's decisions do affect so many human beings. I mean, United Healthcare is the healthcare provider for so many states. Here where I live in Alabama, it's the only provider, really. I mean, seriously, it's the only serious provider of healthcare. And that, that's a problem. I have other solutions, and that's another podcast. But as things stand today, as at this moment, I'm mourn the passing of any human being, but we're all going to die at some point. I'm not thrilled with a human being who, stands there in his stock picture smiling and and photoshopping his waist to that of a waif Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. But I do.
Truly, he was the Kate Moss of his time.
of CEOs. But it does talk. I mean, one last question, Ted, then we'll wrap this up. But it's this: the reaction to this. Does that address this? What you and I have talked
That's
about
what I'm
numerous
interested
times.
in.
The soul of America. The
Right.
fact that the reaction to this is fuck them. The reaction to this is ha ha. He had it coming.
Yeah, it's Nelson.
Yeah, and it's not left or right on this one. It is most Americans now deal with United Healthcare in one way or the other, and they know that it's abominable.
By the way, it was United Healthcare that said I couldn't get my warts taken off my hand. They're like, you just live with your warts, Warty.
Yeah, Warty McWartster. What's the big deal? What's the big deal?
I mean, so you're literally looking at a human being who almost died from a wart. So therefore, I take that a little more seriously than most.
You may want to explain that to our listeners, how you die from a wart.
Well, it's admittedly almost impossible, but I did manage to pull it off. Long story short, 20 years old, I had a wart on my chest. The root grew into an artery in the middle of the night. The artery popped like a wine cork. The root popped out. The pressure from the artery pushed against it, and then sploosh, like in a Tarantino movie, like sploosh, 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 all over the wall, all over the comforter, blah, blah, blah. Lost 8 pints of blood. Had to have a transfusion right in the middle of the AIDS crisis, 1984. That was fun.
Yeah, but in Ohio, there are no gay people in Ohio.
It was New York.
Oh, there's no gay people in New York.
Well, that's a good point. So that made me feel better about it. And that they did say at the time, like, so they had me sign an indemnity.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, while I'm there, dying, they're like, we need you to sign this. Only 50% of the national blood supply has been screened for AIDS. Please sign here to say that you won't be mad if you get AIDS. And I was like, what happens if I don't? They said, who would you like us to notify for your next of kin?
Nice.
So
but you survived. Did you survive?
No. Here, I'm dead. I'm dead. No, I mean, every year for 10 years, I had to be tested. And then the tests got better and blah, blah, blah. So, but it's, it was terrifying. And, a wart can kill you is my point. And who the fuck is some fucking, and here's the thing. It's not like the considered medical opinion of a dermatologist that human beings should live with warts on their hands. It's the considered opinion of a person dealing with the bottom line of a corporation, United Healthcare, who's deciding that we should all live with our warts. That's my point here.
Yeah, I'm just shocked at I don't know if this had happened 30 years ago.
Yeah. Would the reaction have been as toxic?
No, I think it would have been shock. It would have been, holy shit, how could this have happened?
Mm-hmm.
You also wouldn't have had photographs or security camera images of the guy. I just think that we're at this point where, shooting each other, killing each other, not caring about each other, the disdain for human life that you judge to be unworthy. And we're expressing it now. Maybe we've always had that, but now it's like, oh, now we're going to just say it, fuck it. We're just going to say this asshole had it coming. If there's no other way to put it, and good riddance to bad garbage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, and I agree with you. I think that's the analysis. And, there's, Michael Collins, a film with Liam Neeson about the Irish independence struggle against Britain in the first half of the 20th century. And he says at one point, his character says, one of the reasons I hate the Brits is because they've put so much hatred into my heart with their own hatred. And I kind of feel that way about these rapacious corporate bastards, of whom the healthcare people are absolutely the worst, because they're literally in the way of life-saving necessary procedures and surgeries and so on. I literally did not get, I'm an upper middle class guy, and I felt like I couldn't afford a colonoscopy until earlier this year at the age of 61. You're supposed to start getting them at 50, because my ex-wife got a colonoscopy and we got hit by a surprise $12,000 out of network anesthesiologist bill. And I'm like, I don't want to pay $12,000 fucking dollars for, it's in network, but it's like, oh, it's covered by insurance. Well, no, not really. Not if it's out of network anesthesiologist. So I'm like, I was like, I'm not paying $12,000 for that. Maybe if I had colorectal cancer in my family history, I would have been like, fuck it, I'll chance the 12 grand. But I didn't. My point is that we're all, as a country, America has a declining, life expectancy now.
Yeah.
And in part, it's because we don't have any preventative care. I mean, forget it. We have no preventative care.
Oh,
Ted, and when we're sick, we don't even go to the fucking doctor.
I have a quick story. My
co-host Manila on my other show, the TMI show, she's got pleurisy and pneumonia right now. She didn't go to the doctor for the last 2 weeks because, again, she's unemployed. She couldn't afford it. I mean, it's the same shit. So we're all sick because of the high cost of healthcare. And even if you have insurance, it's useless. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, because I went to the doctor recently for my physical because I just turned 65. I recently turned 65, and they have these, when you join Medicare, the annual, you get the annual wellness check. Do you know what this is, Ted? Let me hear. I am not a medical professional, but I have drawn them many times. Ted, I will give you the Medicare, first go round checkup. You ready?
Okay.
You're sitting down. You're in your gown.
I am sitting down.
Okay. How you feeling?
Good.
Okay, we're done. That's it.
How do you fail that?
Well, I guess you make the mistake of saying, well, I've got this thing here. No, I don't want, no, can't. La, 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 la. The doctor just goes, it's insane. It is so cursory, and so no blood was taken. No skin was touched. No moles were checked. This is what the government thinks is a checkup. This is what the government will say. This is what we're covered.
And by the way, that's the better system over the ACA.
The approval of Medicare is through the roof. People love it, but this, I got to admit, this checkup was like,
yeah, that's.
Did you want to touch me in any way? I mean, I don't want anything romantic, but can you I've got some moles, or you curious about this at all? No.
That's so absurd.
That's where America is, the greatest country in the world, the richest country, truly the richest country that's ever been on this planet, by the way.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
Control more of the world's wealth than any country ever has in the history of our species. Think about that for just a moment. And here we are.
We can do better.
Shooting our CEOs. Maybe this is a start. That's the other thing. I have to admit, the second thought, besides I thought it was it, was my second thought was a Ted Rall thought was, oh, well, so it begins.
Hopefully. All right, man. So let's take it out. Thanks everybody for listening. I'm Ted Rall from the left. That over there is Scott Stantis on the right.
That's
both political
me.
Cartoonists. And get your pens and paper, pencil and paper ready, because we're about to fire off all the things all the places you can go.
Here it comes
to check out all things Ted Rall and Scott.
We need to run some music behind it. Go ahead. And
yeah, we do. All right, here we go.
I'll do it. Ready?
You'll get the music. All right, you'll be the music. Here we go.
Okay, I'll be the music. Oh, Spanish eyes, your Spanish, your eyes, your Spanish eyes. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, there's Ted's book. Now here's where you can see Scott's stuff and go on the internet. DMZ America. Bye, everyone.